everyone's starting to join now, which is really nice. We've got our handy little assistant here with us as well, Louis.
See if I can get him. Here we go. Say hello, little one. Hello.
Thank you very much.
So this is little Louis, our little pup. He's helping us today. He's just been to doggy daycare today, so he should be tired, but he seems to be full of beans. So
He wants to drink my coffee.
Yeah.
I did see your message as well, Laura. That was from the team at Ashley. I'll ping you a message afterwards about why we sent it and stuff as well. So yeah, I'll chat to you after this. But yeah, so what's Louis' role within the Story-led studio empire?
He's a marketing assistant.
What's his personality like?
He likes to sleep on the job, I will admit. So maybe not the best employee, but he's the chief of cuddles, so he fulfills that role pretty well.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, normally he's pretty good on these things. He doesn't bark, so I'm sure he'll be fine. So we'll just kick off now then. So we have got Becca here from Story-led Studio. She was part of the Ashton McGill team, and now she's left the team, but she still works with us. She's got her own business, Story-led Studio, where, do you want to explain it? She probably will better than I will.
Yeah, so I help brands tell their story, and I do some work, do some design work, some brand identity work, and some marketing. So, and I kind of take a story-led approach. So storytelling is very much core to what I do, and I'm really passionate about helping businesses and organizations use stories to help them do what they do better.
Yeah, so I don't think there could be anyone else better to help us with this webinar today on storytelling.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'll try my best.
And you've won some good awards recently as well. She won the Samuel Selbom Prize at Dundee University, and she also won the English Literature Award for Europe at the Global Undergraduate Awards. So you're pretty handy at putting a story together, which is awesome. So we've got some slides for today as well, which we'll just share with you now. So we'll get them up, and then I'll let Becca kick us off.
Okay, so our lives are built around stories, and I believe that they're a motivational tool to get people to rally together behind your cause. And we spend a great deal of our lives telling stories. We tell them to our children, our friends, our neighbours, our co-workers. When we think about it, really, our whole lives are built around narratives. From childhood fairy tales to our favourite books and films, and even our own memories and experiences all form one larger story. And why should our businesses be any different? I think stories can be a really powerful tool to get to know people and form meaningful relationships. And it comes really naturally to us in day-to-day life to tell stories and in the relationships that we have. So I believe it can be a really powerful way to nurture relationships in a business setting, and no matter what kind of organization you have too. And good stories, I believe that they engage, inspire and connect. And because they speak to us on such an emotional level, it really inspires people to come together behind your cause. And they're a really great tool for building communities. On to the next. Yeah. So we're deeply emotive beings, and stories are a way of connecting on a deeper level, of sharing who we are and communicating our sense of purpose. They also attract people who believe what we believe, which makes them a really powerful tool for building communities and cultures, because they bring people together around a common set of values and beliefs, and it inspires them to champion that cause. When we share values and beliefs with others, we also form trust, and that gives us a sense of belonging and a sense of contributing to something bigger than ourselves. And stories also imbue our lives with a deeper sense of meaning. Because they make people aware of your cause, they build trust and provide value, which is essential for building strong communities or tribes of people around your cause. And although we like to think that we're rational beings, we're actually more moved by stories than we are by logic. They speak to us on a deeper level and give us a sense of meaning. And that's why they can be so powerful for us to use in our organizations. So, oh, I don't know what that weird symbol is there, sorry. So I think someone that sums this up really well is Simon Sinek. You might have heard of his book, Start With Why. If you haven't read it yet, I'd really urge you to do so. It's a brilliant book that talks about how we can really harness the power of stories to share why we do what we do and inspire other people. And you can see here in this model, what he talks about is actually underpinned by quite a lot of science. And what makes stories so powerful, according to Simon, is their ability to resonate with us on an emotional level. So this here is Simon Sinek's model of the golden circle. Simon believes that for stories to be successful, we need to communicate from the inside out. That means starting with why. So he believes that when we are telling stories or communicating what we do, we need to start with why we do what we do. What's our cause? What do we believe in? And then we move slowly outside of the circle to how, and then to what. And this can be quite difficult for people to do because we're so used to saying what we do, we don't actually think to start with why. But when we just communicate what we do, that only speaks to the part of our brain that's responsible to rational thought and language, which is this neocortex. It doesn't connect with us on that deeper level. So just explaining what something is or what you do won't communicate on that deep level. But when you actually start with why and communicate your purpose, you speak directly to the limbic brain, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for all of our feelings, all of our behavior, and all of our decision making. And when you speak directly to this part of the brain, you're actually inspiring people to take action. So that's, I think, what makes storytelling so powerful, is because of their ability to create change. Emotions are often the driving force behind the decisions we make, and since it's controlled by the same part of the brain as well. And because stories speak to that part of the brain, they compel us to act. And I think that's something that's really powerful that Simon really hits on the head here. And that's how, when we kind of use this approach, it really helps us to build communities and build that tribe of people around those core beliefs.
Yeah, and if anyone's looking at this and thinking about, like, what is our why? Simon Sinek's also got a great book called Find Your Why. And this is a process that you can do with someone else. And it's all about recording memories through your life, finding keywords in there that drive you. And you can do similar things for your organization. But what we tend to find is that your own personal why always really relates close to the business, the why of the business and the purpose and the cause of the business. And that can be what drives you. So if anyone's looking for finding the why, would really recommend it. We've both been through the process, haven't we?
Yeah, it's a brilliant process. The book is really helpful. It kind of takes you through a step-by-step guide and gives you lots of prompts, and it's a lot of kind of reflection and digging back on your past experiences, and then you get someone else who kind of guides you through the process, and they essentially just take an objective look and find the common thread between all the stories in your life, and then they use that to kind of craft what your purpose is, really, what inspires you to do what you do and to act the way you do, and what kind of drives you to make a difference. So it is a brilliant process, and I think it's something that it is difficult. It can take a lot of time to refine the why as well, but I think spending that time on it is so good, not just in terms of the storytelling aspect of things, but also just for clarity of your own purpose. Simon Sinek believes that everything we do should be aligned with that why, so it's a really good tool for making decisions. If a decision doesn't sit comfortably with you and it doesn't further your cause, then maybe it's not the best decision. So it is a brilliant process, and I definitely recommend you guys to do it if you haven't done it. So the most successful brands don't sell products and services. They sell experiences, lifestyles, values, and beliefs. And they ultimately sell their why. The why is what people invest in because they share the same values as you and share how you see the world. So when we buy from brands, we buy from them because we believe in what they believe, and we believe how they can help us change our lives. So every time we purchase a product or service, we're really buying into a story of how that product or service will make our lives better. We're buying into a lifestyle and a belief. If we take brands like BrewDog and like Apple, we, at the end of the day, we're buying a product from them, but what we're really buying is what that says about us. We're buying into a lifestyle. With BrewDog, you're buying into a lifestyle of being fiercely independent, of challenging the status quo, and same with Apple, about being individual, about being different. And we were actually having a chat about this last night, and we could maybe mention your golf tower you've got. It's a really
So
good
there's
example.
a couple of golf brands that I like to associate myself with, because golf's one of those sports that's been very traditional, very sexist, quite racist as well, and that's not a nice thing. And I want to associate myself with golf brands that do things differently and are more welcoming, and are trying to break down the barriers of what is a traditional game. And it's quite a nice thing to wear a sort of a symbol that states that, and whenever you go somewhere, you're kind of like proud to have that with you, and make sure you're always representing that cause and that belief in a way that makes the game of golf better. And that's a nice thing to do. And I think we see that with other brands as well. Brands like Rafa, who have changed the cycling world, getting more people into cycling. It made it quite cool. That kind of like coffee cycle culture is really nice. And I think these brands and lifestyle businesses that you choose, quite often they do match your values and beliefs, and you get so much more out of it as a customer when you do that.
Yeah, and I think what's really powerful about what these kinds of brands have done is they've kind of mobilized a community around their cause. Because if you look at everyone that supports BrewDog, for example, or everyone that supports Apple, they all share a core set of beliefs or characteristics, and they're kind of a community built around that, which is really powerful. Like, not just in a business setting, maybe in a non-profit organization or any kind of project you've got, it can be a really powerful tool to kind of inspire those people and bring them together.
Yeah, and we'll go on to talk as well about different mediums that you can use to tell stories. But so many of these brands now are telling amazing stories through content, almost like the golf brand is almost like Anthony Bourdain style film about golf, and it's just a beautiful thing to watch, and it does inspire you, because you get that story written content that's really in detail, beautifully written. And I just think there's something lovely about that.
Hop on to the next slide.
Yes.
So this is one of my favorite Seth Godin quotes. I think that sums it up really well. He says, "People don't buy goods and services; they buy relations, stories, and magic," which I think is lovely. I think we all are just looking for a happy ending to our own stories. When we buy something, we're investing in the beliefs of that brand, that promise they're making to us, and how that product or service will enrich our lives. I think that's something that's really powerful, that shows what you can actually do around stories, and the kind of impact that you can have on people, and the kind of how you can change their lives. So stories are a tool to amplify your cause, your values, and to share what you stand for, because they attract others who believe what you believe, and they're a way of showing how you see the world, what you stand for, and how you want to make a difference. They're also a powerful way of uniting people towards a common cause, because they can inspire people to become a part of a movement and something bigger than themselves, and help them become champions of your cause, because they help fulfill our desire for meaning as well. It can be a really powerful tool.
I think we've seen this as well. We've been speaking to Andrew Ferguson at their recruitment, and been through that process yourself, and looking at other businesses we work with. And what we tend to see is that businesses that have got that why, that's telling stories, the people that they bring into their team just care so deeply about that business and want to further the cause, and will do anything to help them do that. And it's not necessarily always about the paycheck. When it's that way around, and you tend to find people that are more aligned with you, they have your beliefs and your values, and yeah, they'll do anything to jump on board that ship and further the cause with you.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about the lifetime of a business, you know, if you can get a bunch of people that believe in the same thing, and you're able to do that through the life of the business, you're going to be able to create a legacy there, because the business is going to outlive you, which is a really nice thing, I think.
Absolutely. So I think one of the best ways that we can kind of tell stories about our businesses and our organizations is to actually see the world through our customers' eyes and position them as the hero of the story. It can be really tempting to think of ourselves or our own businesses as the hero and talk about everything from our perspective, but some of the best brands out there that use stories actually put their customers at the heart of that story and tell stories about their customers. And there's such a powerful way of connecting with your clients and building a community. So you can really use that to empathize with customers and really appeal to their emotions. And adopting that customer perspective is good for your business on so many levels, for improving your product or service, but it's also a really, really great tool for telling great stories and motivating your customers to work with you. So just that little shift in perspective and sharing those stories can really help you kind of tap into, so what are their aspirations, what are their needs, what are their values, and how can you tell those stories around that? So looking at the world through the eyes of your customer and positioning them as the hero is a really great way of inviting them in and having yourself as the kind of guide that helps them succeed. So one of the best ways to tell stories is to identify what your customers want and just communicate it to them really simply. Invite them in and just put them at the heart of that process, and that'll help you share those amazing experiences that other customers had, and hopefully other people will want to be a part of that too. So if you can really tap into kind of the wants, needs and desires and use that to be the kind of core piece of the storytelling, then that is a really great way to kind of engage people, invite them in, also inspire them to want to be a part of what you're doing, which I think is really key. And I think just now, with everything that's going on at the moment, stories are so important because we're social beings and we need human interaction, but spending so much time at home and away from support networks can be really isolating, it can be lonely, but stories are really important. They're really important for nurturing relationships and fostering those communities when we're unable to have that kind of face-to-face, in-person interaction. They can also help to give us a sense of hope and belonging and just inspire us to be better humans. And I think right now, with everything that's going on, I think we just need a bit more inspiration and a bit of happiness, and we need to feel supported and engaged. And I think that stories are a wonderful way to do that.
I think that's the thing about where we are at the moment. It's like we almost want to build back better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the world felt like it was going a million miles an hour before this happened, and now it's given us the chance to sit back and think about, you know, what is our community actually like, our local community like, and how could we do things to benefit our local community instead of just focusing on what we're doing? How could we all come together to make things better? And I think these are lovely stories to tell. Yeah,
and even just telling stories of who you are, why you exist, and how you want to make a difference in people's lives, I think that that's something people are really receptive to. The people that believe that and the people that that resonates with will want to be a part of what you're doing. and that can also help provide them with real value. So if you kind of weave in some really useful content into those stories, that's really aimed at, what are the needs and wants of your customers? How can you kind of address those in your storytelling? How can you create stories that are actually really useful to them, that they might find interesting or thought-provoking, or that might help them in their lives in some way, is also really key.
So for this one then, we're going to have a quick chat about mediums and things that you can use to tell stories. So we'll kick off with podcasts. We've had our Never Settle podcast now for a couple of years. We've had some fantastic guests on it. And that's always been a thing for us, where we want to share stories of people that we're inspired by and that think in a similar way to us. And people that think the same way as us have listened to these podcasts now and are now clients of ours, work with us, or the stories within our podcast have inspired them to do something. And I think that's a lovely thing. You're quite a big fan of podcasts as well.
Yeah, I am. I've really enjoyed the conversations we've had on Never Settle, and I think there's like a common thread that runs through the podcast where everyone actually believes in that kind of ethos of not settling for less, of always pushing to be better and to do better. One of my favorite podcast episodes was with Johanna Basford, the illustrator, and it's just such an inspiring. It's so inspiring to just hear those stories of her life and how she got to where she was. And you should listen to the podcast episode if you haven't, because it's a brilliant conversation. And Johanna, she's just so tenacious. I remember one story she told us about how she wanted to illustrate the Starbucks cup. So what she would do is she would just find old Starbucks cups that people had used, and she would kind of just doodle on them and then post them online and tag Starbucks. And she eventually managed to get somebody's email from Starbucks, and she just essentially sent them loads of emails saying, "Hi, I'm Johanna, please let me illustrate for you." And after all these emails, they were eventually just like, "Okay, fine, you can do it."
I think she shared his email to her followers, and she got all of her followers to email him to say, "Please get Joanna to work with you."
But yeah, no, it's just amazing, and I think there's just so much to learn from stories as well. Like, I just find that so inspiring because sometimes you've got to take a risk. Sometimes it pays off being a little bit cheeky, and she's got to where she is today, and I think a large part of that is due to that attitude of never settling and
tenacious,
pushing to be better and doing things your own way.
Another great medium is just the classic blog post bit of content. That's something you're really good at, focusing in on the blog post side of things. Have you got any tips for people in terms of how to structure?
I would probably I would say it's pretty formulaic, the approach that I take anyway. I would just have like a really solid introduction that gives an overview of everything that's going to be said in about a sentence or two, and then work your way through a list. It's great to have lots of headings and subheadings to break up big bodies of text, and the search engines like that as well. Lots of lovely images can help as well, maybe GIFs or videos. And then I like to do kind of pull quotes where I take what I think is maybe one of the strongest points in the blog, or something you really want to convey, and then pop that somewhere in bolder, bigger text to really grab people's attention. And I think it's just if you can distill the blog post down into like one or two key sentences, that's brilliant for sharing as well on Twitter and stuff, where you are limited with character space, and that's a really great way for amplifying the stories when you've only got a short amount of space.
Awesome, thank you very much. And I think finally the other big main one at the moment is video.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see so much more video. You've got Instagram Reels now, YouTube's a huge platform.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the future of film and video? How can that help organizations tell their stories?
I think that we were having a discussion about this the other day, where we were just saying that I think to connect on that really, really deep level, I think even though we've got all these different visual platforms and really short form video stories, I think that something like a blog post is still going to be so powerful to resonate with people in a deep way, because we're able to really get to their emotions. We're able to kind of really convey why we do what we do and share our purpose. But I think that video can also be really powerful for building your brand. From an aesthetic point of view, can be really great in terms of visual direction for your brand. But it's also much easier for people to digest. It only takes a fraction of the time to watch a video than it does to read a blog post. But I think that it can also have a huge impact in a fraction of the time. And I think that it seems that it's really kicking off with short form videos. So I think that the real challenge is going to be, how can we tell amazing stories in 15 seconds or less? How can we grab somebody's attention and be creative and stand out in such a short space of time?
Yeah, thank you very much.
So stories can communicate a philosophy and a purpose, and in an easy and digestible way. And they connect with us on such a visceral level. They attract other people who believe what we believe, and they inspire us to take action. And I think that's what makes stories so powerful, is that they inspire us to be better and to do better. And this is something that Simon Sinek talks a lot about in his book Start With Why, about inspiring people. And I think stories are your number one tool for doing that, because they're a way of conveying what kind of world you want to live in and how you want to make a difference. And hopefully those stories will inspire other people to make a difference, or help them in their own unique way. And they help us share our vision of that world, and they attract other people who want to make that vision a reality, which I think is something that can be really powerful for social goods organizations and charities, particularly where they have a real purpose and a real cause that they want to further, and something that they want to change, something they want to fundamentally change
within society.
Yeah, and I think stories are a really wonderful way to illustrate, what's wrong with things as they are, and what can we do to build a better world? What can we do to build a fairer world?
Yeah, and go back to that, like why, how, and what. Like that's how you can start to build the pillars of a great story.
Yeah, I think that's another good tip for storytelling, is to start with that why, and then build back out the way with why, how, and what. So starting with why you're doing what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and then what that specific thing is.
Yeah, the action.
Which is kind of a funny way to communicate things, because we're so used to just saying what we do, like, oh, I do marketing or something like that. It's something I say all the time, but if we actually get into that deep why, it doesn't really matter what you do. At the end of the day, you could do marketing, you could be an accountant, but if you've got the same purpose, you'll connect with so many other people that believe what you believe.
Totally. So I think we'll just kick off on these with just like a few ideas for people in terms of those, if you're thinking about starting to create some stories, then here are some quick ones that you could get started with.
So you can tell the story of why you started your organization or your business, I guess kind of what it was that inspired you to start. We've done this with Ashton McGill. We've got quite a long blog post that goes back to some cute childhood photos of Andy, you'll see, and kind of just taking through the story from then till now. That could be a really good way to kind of, it's quite a personal one, but I think it's lovely to show that side of yourself, especially in a business setting, and to hopefully connect with people that share that same belief, or that that really resonates with them. You could create other stories around what your organization believes in, what your values and goals are, and what your vision is. So you could go into, if you've got kind of ethos or brand values, you can go into detail about each of those and what they mean to you, and that will show people exactly who you are and what you're all about, and it should hopefully attract people that believe in that as well, and give them more of an insight into kind of how you do things and why you do things as well, which is so important. And also just sharing those stories of how are you helping your clients or users. So you could talk about what problems they have, positioning them again as the hero of the story, how you're making a difference in their lives. Those can be some of the most powerful stories. Like we see that all the time with kind of client testimonials or all like those kinds of things. And if they really center around, what was that kind of frustration or pain point, and how you've come in as the kind of guide to help the customer through that journey, and how you've made a difference in their lives. Those are the kind of stories I think are so successful for businesses and organizations to use, the ones that kind of center around the customer and how you're making a difference in their lives. And just in terms of bigger picture stuff, how you want to make a difference to the world, what world do you envision? What are you trying to do? What's your dream for 5 or 10 years time? Those kinds of stories I think are amazing. To talk about the future as well is so exciting and helps us, plan and imagine what we want to do. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I think with this one, how can it make a difference in your organization? I think before I was speaking about how it can help your team get behind the cause. I think that's really important because you will perform so much better as a collective team, working towards the same goal. If you've all got the same beliefs and values, and it's just a beautiful thing when it feels like everything's working and it makes everyone clear within your company about what the mission is. Where do we want to get to? What's the vision? What's the vision of the world that we see? What do we want to be different in 5 years? And share that far and wide, and people will think, do you know what? That's what I want the world to be like too. I want to be a part of this. And it's a lovely thing when that does happen.
I think at the end of the day, good stories are all about people. We're interested in stories about surviving and thriving. So in a business setting, or in any kind of organization, if we share those stories about how we want to thrive, how we're helping people thrive, how we want the world to thrive, that's what people are attracted to. That's what inspires us to go and act and go away and help further our own cause.
Totally. And I think thinking about what Powered by Positive is, Powered by Positive is stories. Like today we're telling you a story. We're also helping people with their story, and hopefully through our funding part of Powered by Positive, creating new stories. And I think that's a lovely thing to be able to do. We're here to tell people stories and inspire them to be better. And I guess with Powered by Positive, that, the goal of it is that we can use and harness the power of storytelling to get people to think differently about things, to benefit humankind in the long run, and covering things like, how to be more green as a business. Hopefully by telling these stories, we can influence people to change things and think, well, is that a good way of doing things? Or, could this be better? And I think that's a really exciting thing to do. That's our final slide, I think. Is it?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, it is. If anyone's got any questions for Rebecca, please pop them into the Q&A. I think that was so interesting. I think storytelling has been such a big part of Ashton McGill over the last 2 or 3 years, and I've really seen how Becca's been able to harness the power of that and bring people into our community that believe in what we believe in. And like when we had our Christmas party last year at 71 Brewing, which might not be happening this year, which I'm a bit sad about. So we have to do a virtual one. We'll do a virtual one.
So.
We'll send everyone beer. That was such a nice night because everyone there was so similar and they all had such similar beliefs. And you had like the owner of Dundee Football Club, chatting to Goose from Goose's Quizzes about things and just having a great conversation. And we can be in these completely different organizations in different industries, but we can all believe in a similar purpose, a similar cause, and a similar goal. And I think that's really important. I think we'll just, if no one's got any questions, then I think we'll just stop there. I hope you've all enjoyed the webinar. Thank you so much to Becca from Storyline Studio for taking us through that.
I hope it's been useful, guys, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Our next Powered by Positive event will be in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And Alistair will be chatting to Avril Miller. I think they're going to talk about kind of lessons from lockdown and Avril's experience over the past few months, and how that can hopefully inspire us to take things forward. Yeah,
I think thinking about what lessons we've learned over the last, like, how long has it been, like 6 months? Thinking about how can we change going forward and how can we do things better. So really looking forward to that. Thanks everyone for joining us today for number 2. See the chat bar has just popped up. But yes, people just saying thank you very much. I've got to get blogging now, Kirsten. Yeah, I like that. I think you should.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Well, I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully it'll help you share your own amazing stories, and you'll feel a bit more inspired to get on and just do some great work.
Absolutely. And if anyone today wants to chat further with you, Becca, where's the best place to hit you up?
You'll find me on Twitter. I'm at Becca Louise Reid, or through any of the Ashton McGill channels. Really, just please feel free to pop into my inbox or ask me anything or have a chat, and I'm always free. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.